Good morning. My name is Ms.Ramirez, and today, boys and girls, we're going to be reading What Are Rivers? This is your QR code as a 2.8. This is a second grade lesson. Before we begin, what are rivers? We are first going to be filling out our KWL chart. Excuse me. This was from our Vaka text. And in our K, what do we know? I know that. Write it down. As we move on, now I'm going to do our W. What do you want to learn about rivers? Are rivers the same? Excellent question. How do rivers begin? Are there different types of rivers? And of course, these are all questions that are going to guide our learning. And as we are reading, as we are listening, reflect back on these questions. That way we can answer them, yes, but also it's going to, of course, help us learn something new, which is what we want to do. And after we finish, boys and girls, we're going to fill out the L for what we did learn. Now remember, as I am writing, you are writing. And now that your questions are complete, boys and girls, we're going to put our pencils down, and we are now going to be putting on our listening ears, okay? Put on your thinking brains, and we're going to be actively engaged in our reading, boys and girls. So, what are rivers? Here's our tab page. What are rivers? Where rivers begin. Rivers begin on high land where it often rains or snows. The start of a river is called the source. Ooh, I like how everybody tapped their hand on the vocabulary word. Caption. This river begins in the mountains where there is a lot of rain and snow. Caption. This river begins as the mountain ice melts. Some rivers start when ice melts. The ice melts in warm weather, so the river has most water in spring and summer. I'm going to stop right here. I love the way everybody tapped for source. And source is a vocabulary word, and that means the start of a river. That's what it is. Now, what exactly is it? Well, if we look at our photographs, this gives us our visual clues, boys and girls. And our captions give us a detail of what that visual representation is trying to give us. So as we look, we can see that it begins because there's rain and snow. Remember, we've been talking about the water cycle in science, boys and girls? We can see how it all plays together. It's not just, the water cycle, it's raining, boys and girls. It all comes together to help Mother Earth. Here we can see that it's forming rivers. It's not just raining and flooding my front yard, boys and girls. It is beginning a natural resource of a river. We can also see on page 5, this river looks different from this one, but also it's a lot of running water, and I can see that because all the ice has melted. That's weird. And now that we have finished reading, boys and girls, we are going to pick your pencils up, and now we're going to write everything that we learned. Now, as my students and I write, after we finish this portion, this is only going to be on the first day. This is not all done all together, because my next activity with the KWL chart would be using our Writing Revolution text and writing a summary. Now, before we sit down and write a summary, we have already jotted down information that we learned. Now, it is in bullet form, so when I revisit this lesson again, we're going to have our shoulder buddy, or we're going to have our turn and talks. After we have our turn and talks, I'm comparing what I wrote to what you wrote, And now I have enough information. So now in class, I'm going to independently, after I've conference with my partner, I'm going to write a paragraph of what I learned about what are rivers. After my paragraph is complete, now I'm going to move on to the next day and the next step. Now I'm going to have peer editing, and also we're going to have discussions, whole group, as in what I wrote, what I learned, and what you learned is not always going to be the same. However, there are going to be some key details in this that are going to be similar. After we've conferenced and discussed this, once again, I'm going to pass out index cards, and now we're going to finally get to our summaries, where we summarize our book, What Are Rivers, into an index cards, and then we're going to display them and kind of do a gallery walk of our summaries of rivers, and bringing it back to the Tatum text, always setting a purpose for our reading. This is not just a check off of I have to read this because the curriculum says, but also setting a purpose. Rivers are real life, and connecting it to what we see now, and tying it in with our science or social studies, and taking those virtual field trips. And we might not be able to go to the Cape Fear River, but we can log in and see it and be able to do it that way. And of course, nonfiction is a type of text that not a lot of students gravitate towards, but there's a lot of information and you could do so much depicting it at nonfiction, why there's photographs, subheadings, captions, and things like that.